look, that was tough. But you know what? Tough. We got to stand by Harry, man. Harry did the right thing. That man sided with his woman
and said, you know what? That, I'm out.
I'm out.
Y'all gonna question what color my baby gonna be and all that? That ain't got nothing to do with nothing. I love this woman right here. And if I love this woman, love has no color on it.
Said and shouldn't be said anymore. God damn it, Snoop. Sometimes you just get so profound with it, man. You know what you made me want to do?
What?
Sing another song. At the end of the day, I'ma flow my way. Ask me where I'ma be at, it's another day. Don't matter what the color is, cause I do. What the fuck you wanna see? It's me and Snoop. Ooh! That was an accident. It came together at the end, though.
Really did.
Came together at the end.
Period. All right. Deep breath. Let's talk. Because what you just heard wasn't just a funny celebrity moment. That wasn't Snoop being Snoop or Kevin Hart cracking jokes. That clip right there was a cultural gut punch. The kind that lands harder because it's wrapped in laughter and truth instead of palace-approved buzzwords. And the reason that clip still hits years later is simple. They said out loud what the royal institution and British media spent years trying to bury. No euphemisms, no sources close to the family, no misunderstandings. Just raw, unfiltered clarity. And that is why it rattles people. Because when you strip away the accents, the crowns, the titles, the fake politeness, and the endless press briefings, the situation with Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, and Prince Harry becomes painfully obvious to anyone with basic emotional intelligence. This was never complicated. It was made complicated on purpose. Let's start with the thing the media still pretends not to understand. Prince Harry did not abandon his family. He protected the one he created. And for some reason, a very telling reason, that decision is treated like a scandal instead of what it actually is, integrity. The way Snoop and Kevin reacted is important because they didn't approach this from a place of reverence for the monarchy. They approached it from lived reality, from a place where love isn't conditional, where loyalty isn't negotiable, and where racism isn't something you tiptoe around to preserve tradition. That's why their reaction landed instantly. They didn't need a timeline. They didn't need both sides. They didn't need palace approval. They heard the facts and went, yeah, I'm out too. And that is exactly what Prince Harry did. Let's rewind for a second, because context matters no matter how much certain commentators hate it. When Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, entered that institution, she did so with optimism. She followed the rules, she learned the protocols, she worked, she showed up, she represented the crown with dignity, and frankly, with a level of global appeal the monarchy had not seen in decades. And instead of protecting her, the institution did what it always does when faced with change. It froze, then it deflected, then it fed her to the wolves. The press coverage wasn't just negative, it was obsessive, it was racialized, it was cruel in a way that was unmistakable to anyone not pretending otherwise. Straight out of the gate, Meghan was treated as a problem to be managed instead of a human being to be supported. Everything she did was scrutinized. Everything she wore was moralized. Everything she said was twisted. Even her silence was weaponized. And while all of this was happening, Prince Harry watched it unfold with the clarity of someone who had seen this movie before. Because let's not forget, Harry grew up watching his mother be hounded, humiliated, and destroyed by the press, while the institution looked the other way. So when people ask, why did Harry leave? The real question is, why wouldn't he? Especially when the attacks escalated from tabloid nonsense to something far darker. Because speculation about a baby's skin tone is not gossip. It is not harmless curiosity. It is not concern. It is racism. And the fact that this topic was even discussed within royal circles should have been a 5-alarm fire. Instead, it was brushed aside, minimized, and treated as an inconvenience. That's the moment everything snapped into focus. Prince Harry wasn't choosing between duty and love. He was choosing between repeating history and breaking it. And the thing that makes people uncomfortable, the thing that still triggers the loudest backlash, is that he chose differently than his predecessors. He chose his wife. He chose his child. He chose mental health. He chose safety. And that choice exposed the institution more than any interview ever could. Because if the monarchy truly valued family above all else, this would not have been controversial. If it truly valued protection, Meghan would have been defended publicly instead of sacrificed quietly. If it truly valued unity, they wouldn't have punished Harry for refusing to comply with silence. But they didn't. And that's why this clip matters. Because when people outside that bubble heard the story, they didn't see betrayal. They saw survival. They saw a man saying, "I will not let my wife be destroyed." They saw a father saying, "My child will not grow up under this." They saw a couple saying, "We choose ourselves." And the idea that love should be punished is something regular people instinctively reject, even if commentators twist themselves into pretzels trying to justify it. This is where the media really lost the plot. Instead of failed Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, they interrogated her existence. Instead of asking why the palace didn't intervene, they asked why she didn't, quote, try harder. Instead of holding institutions accountable, they focused on tone, optics, and optics alone. And let's be honest, if Meghan had endured all of that quietly, if she had smiled through it, suffered in silence, and accepted mistreatment as the price of proximity to power, she would be praised endlessly. But she didn't. She spoke. She survived. She left. And that is unforgivable to people who rely on compliance. Prince Harry leaving alongside her shattered a narrative the monarchy desperately needs to survive, that loyalty to the institution must come at the expense of personal well-being, because the moment he walked away and didn't crumble, the myth cracked. He didn't fall apart. He didn't disappear. He didn't come crawling back. Instead, he built a life, publicly, visibly, unapologetically, with Meghan, Duchess of Sussex. And the reaction to that tells you everything. The anger wasn't about duty, it was about defiance. A prince who refuses to be controlled is dangerous to an institution built on control. That's why voices like Snoop Dogg and Kevin Hart cut through the noise so effectively. They aren't invested in preserving royal fantasy. They're responding as human beings. And when human beings hear, "They questioned my child's skin tone," the response is immediate. No nuance, no debate, just that's wrong. And notice something else. They didn't blame Meghan. They didn't ask what she did to deserve it. They didn't suggest she misunderstood. They stood with Harry because Harry stood with his wife. That's the part that still breaks people's brains, because for generations, royal wives were expected to absorb pain quietly. Their suffering was framed as duty. Their silence was praised as grace. Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, refused that script, and Prince Harry refused to let her carry that burden alone. That's not weakness, that's partnership. And the fact that this still causes outrage says far more about the institution than it ever will about them. Let's also talk about how this clip highlights something the media never wants to admit. Outside the UK press bubble, the narrative was never confusing. Globally, people understood, people empathized, people supported. The backlash has always been loud, not large. Because when you remove the obsession with hierarchy and tradition for tradition's sake, what remains is a very simple story. A woman was mistreated, a man protected his family. They chose peace over performance, and no amount of hit pieces will ever change that foundation. That's why the anger never fades. That's why the coverage never stops. That's why Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, remains a fixation, because she represents something the institution cannot control: choice. And Harry represents something even more destabilizing: accountability. So when Snoop says love has no color, that's not just a statement about race. It's a rejection of a system that tried to categorize, limit, and police that love. It's a reminder that no title is more important than dignity. And that is exactly why this clip deserves to open this conversation. Because before the palace spokespeople, before the tabloids, before the endless think pieces, there was clarity. And that clarity still stands. Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, did not tear a family apart. Prince Harry did not abandon his duty. They chose each other. They chose health. They chose truth. And the fact that people are still furious about that choice tells you exactly how necessary it was. So let them keep shouting. Let them keep rewriting history. Let them keep pretending this was about protocol. Because outside that echo chamber, people heard the story loud and clear. And they said exactly what Snoop and Kevin said, just with fewer crowns and a lot more honesty. And honestly, that's the real legacy of all this. Not the noise, not the outrage, not the headlines. But the moment the illusion cracked and regular people saw the truth for what it was. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.